and a lot of good tips, and not only from the perspective of how we distinguish between really impact investing or investing into some impact like greenwashing ideas, but then also great tips on how we can do and what we can do to achieve sustainability together. All right, our next panel is Seeking Alpha, Hong Kong Sustainable Startups, and we're honored to have several panelists to join us today. They're going to talk about what are some common attributes behind these Hong Kong startups and enable them to attract funding while working towards a sustainable future, and how could they balance the need of seeking alpha from VCs without compromising their vision and mission. Now please join me and welcome our moderator for this session, Mr. Fred Lee, Executive Director of Gobi Partners GBA. Please welcome. And also welcome his panelists to come on stage as well. Please join him right now. And I'll let Fred to introduce our panelists for us. All right, Fred, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. This is Fred Lee from Gobi Partners GBA. I'm very honored to being the moderator today. May I introduce George from EcoInno, Winnie from Pickup, Sindan from Clearbot, and Maggie from Bioinformatics. Please join us to welcome them. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you, Invest Hong Kong, and also Alibaba Entrepreneurs Funds to have us this session today. And Alibaba Entrepreneurs Funds is an initiative that focusing in Hong Kong, and also promoting the Hong Kong startup ecosystem. It's also the first ever ecosystem initiative that putting over 1 billion Hong Kong dollar to support the Hong Kong startup ecosystem. And right now we expand to the fund two. We're investing the startup and also good enterprise across the whole GBA area that's come from the 9+2 11 cities. So today, our topic is seeking alpha. Another keyword is sustainable and startup. So we have one of the best startup in Hong Kong here today to share their experience. So the first question is, when we talk about startup and fundraising, a lot of people heard elevator pitch. What about we invite our speaker to do an elevator pitch demo for us, one by one. So let's welcome our big brothers, Josh, to do it first. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been quite a while doing speech or elevator speech. Only I learned about this yesterday. And 100 words. How can I describe my company in 100 words? I mean, writing it is difficult. Thinking it is even more difficult because all the complexity and confusions, all the things rise up. So thank you, Fred, allowing me to share with all of you the 16 years, what we have done. I try to summarize in 100 words. But please allow me to peek, okay? Because it's scary. Because writing is difficult, and memorizing is, I rather don't want to drop, because every single word is so important. And I hope that allow me to do this way. I am the co-founder of EcoInno. EcoInno is a technology company, Hong Kong-based, with a vision to provide 100% zero plastic solution. For what? For creating sustainability for the environment. Sounds big. We witnesses the huge damage towards our environment and human health by plastic material and plastic waste. EcoInno developed a high-performance green composite material, which I call GCM, which are based on 100 natural fibers and as a substitution for single-use plastic. Everyone have a stake in sustainability. However, the choice we make are critical to our environment and the future of our next generation. EcoInno use innovation and technology to help people and nature to coexist. The core issue is either we are committed to move forward together and find a solution, or we don't. Thank you.
Thank you, George. So I pass the time to you, Winnie.
Yeah, so Pickup, we are a smart logistics company. We interrupt the traditional asset-heavy and fragmented logistics space with the use of technology. So here we empower businesses by connecting various logistics resources on our platform. And with just one single integration, our merchants would be able to use the entire supply chain solutions with just one integration with us. If you think about it, the first impression that the merchant has with the customer is actually with the delivery agent doing the very first deliver order. So that interaction is very important. And at Pickup, we offer full transparency from end to end. That way, we put the customers in control, our merchants in control of the entire customer shopping experience. That's what we do at Pickup. And now we have operations in 4 regions: Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, and Malaysia. And we enabled over 280,000 merchants worldwide.
That's great. Oh, Sindan, by the way, you have a better photo on Tatler Gen T. I pass the time to you.
Thank you so much, Fred, and thank you so much to the InvestHK team for having us at this event. So I'm Siddhant. I'm the co-founder of a company called Clearbot. And what we do is we basically build electric self-driving boats, right? Our boats are completely autonomous. You can drive them from anywhere in the world at the press of a button, and they're completely emission-free, so not a single bit of pollution as we're doing our work. And our robots can actually do marine trash cleanup, oil removal, foam recovery. We can even move 200 kilos of cargo in a single mission, and we're helping the Hong Kong government, a bunch of property companies do these tasks across Hong Kong. We now have a fleet of about 10 boats, and we're trying to scale up. So now in Hong Kong and in India as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Wen, I pass the time to you.
Thank you. Can we have better vaccines with higher effectiveness against the fast evolving viruses? And BethBio is a biotech company founded by professors from the Chinese University of Hong Kong that provides solutions for pharmaceutical companies to enable them to produce vaccines with higher effectiveness and then to get regulatory approvals. We are able to accurately predict virus evolution and mutations, and that allows that is enabled by comprehensive computational biology and artificial intelligence modeling into the virus genome. That with a combination of techniques from virology field to the mathematics. And our business model is through licensing and co-development with vaccine manufacturers. And we have already signed multiple co-development contracts. So make profits together with BethBio by making the world a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wen. So when we talk about ESG, E-come first, that means environment. So gentlemen first, maybe I invite George and Sindan to talk about, well, when you see the increasing awareness of ESG, what does it impact to you as a startup founder? Good side, positive, or negative side? You can share both.
Okay, I'm happy to go first.
Obviously, you got the robot. I'm a human.
Thank you so much, George. Thanks, Fred. No, I think it has made honestly a very large difference in how corporations engage with us. So I look at it this way, right? We're a very small startup, especially to a lot of the large corporates we work with. And most of these people we work with are actually quite risk averse, right? They don't want to make bad decisions. For them, that really matters. But we've seen this ESG trend come in, especially in the last 2 years. And for us, that's actually driven adoption. Even with these large clients, they are willing to take risks to try new things so that they're able to hit their ESG targets, right? And I think at a higher level, it's also a little different because previously, the approach was CSR, which is saying I'm taking my revenue and I'm spending a little bit somewhere, right? So don't get me wrong, but it's a bit of a charitable approach, right? While what we're seeing with ESG is corporations are now thinking, what is my process and how can I improve my process to align on those ESG metrics? And that means that they're making better decisions, but they're also looking into ecosystem stakeholders such as ourselves who are actually providing solutions, real solutions that are better for the environment of society. So definitely we've seen an uptick in adoption and a very different sort of market opinion because of it.
Thank you. I don't think you're a small company because I can see you growing tremendously. The last 2 times I saw this guy, don't lead him on that. Sustainability is such a cool word, When I start our path 15 years ago, no one ever talked about sustainability. When I start to talk about cradle to cradle, circular solutions, George, you are out of the world. What are you talking about? Obviously, I think the sustainability is not just a talking point. It's where all of us experience. Human is a very interesting race. We never believe if we don't see. That is one of the major blocks of us innovator, of us technologists, scientists alike. Because when we start to do innovation, we need to do a lot of very important projection. The world will not be like this and all the sustainability here. And at one point, it created actually a burden, a war. That war is that when I start to talk about sustainability, he said, George, what is sustainability? And allow me to define it. I can share with Echo, we try to solve the root problem. The root problem is really material. If we use the wrong material, not the right material, no matter how you do it, how you treat it, how you recycle it, it never comes back to what it is. So we pick the very most difficult route, we call a foundation science, working from the rock bottom to see what is about cellulose and how can is there any way that we can do something with cellulose in such a way that they be sustainable? So when the question being asked by Fred, how do the sustainable word important to us? Sustainable is our everyday life. Are we grateful of what we have? Will you be fear our next generation will not be as lucky as we are that we can have hot cooked food? We can go to a restaurant and pick and see what we want. I believe in very near future, if we continue to be the way that we are today, that's not going to happen. So this was a prediction I made many years ago. And it actually realized today in Shanghai, my friend George, I got all the money I have. I got my own private plane. I got everything else, but I can't go out. I can't even have food. I mean, why we need to have all these things happen to us? For us to finally realize, to click, that is something we call sustainable. Are we really going through a sustainable life? Are we all willing to change a little bit, a slightly little bit, to be aware of the rare resources we are, to be aware of the huge inequality the world is going on? And that's why the word of environment, sustainable, equality, all tie up together. So answering the question, yes, definitely. Sustainable lifestyle, ESG, if this is not only the way to conduct business or raising fund or spend our spare time is, this is a mission that we all need to be fully engaged to hopefully leave our second generation with something that we experience. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Sindan. I truly respect that you guys are the pioneer in the environmental tech and also green tech area before ESG became a bloom this year or recent years. So yeah, respect and also thank you for your contribution to our Mother Earth. The next question is, when we listen to your elevator speech, we know that Pickup is a smart logistics solution, and bioinformatics is a bioinformatics and also a vaccine solution. So how do you correlate yourself with the increasing awareness of the sustainable futures, and how do you position your company, your startup, to cope up with this trend?
Go first?
Yeah, Winnie, thank you.
Yeah, so when people think about green logistics, I think people normally associate with the use of electric vehicles or the provision of biodegradable packaging materials. But I think as a market participant in the logistics space, it's much more than that. There's so much more that the market industry players could do. And at Pickup, we approach logistics in a slightly different way. First of all, we are asset light. We crowdsource most of our delivery resources on our platform. And also, the second thing is, in order for the industry to be sustainable, we think industry players have to do three things. They have to optimize, to utilize, and to collaborate. So on the point of utilization, if you have ever spoken to a postman, you'll realize that the world's logistics space actually has not progressed at all over the past century. Everything is still pretty much on a very centralized basis. All the parcels will be going back to a very remote central warehouse for sorting before they go back out to the city for deliveries. And despite the fact that a lot of these central warehouses start deploying machines and also robots to make the sorting more efficient, it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of carbon emission that's generated that's not necessary. So I'll give you an example. If you want to deliver something from Causeway Bay to North Point, it's very likely that this parcel would actually go all the way to New Territories before they come back out the next day to Hong Kong Island again for delivery. So you can see that there's a lot of unnecessary carbon footprint involved in a lot of resources that's wasted. So at Pickup, we believe that this can be changed. It can be changed by deploying the underutilized spaces within the city. These spaces could be just back of a coffee shop. It could be an unused corner of a retail shop, anywhere that can be cross-docked for a parcel for our delivery agents to go and pick up and deliver. So you could imagine that if you have enough of these nodes in the city, you can actually shorten the last mile distance to a very short distance that can be done by walkers. So in Hong Kong, in fact, in Hong Kong, for us, most of our delivery orders that are shorter than 3 kilometers are done by walkers using MTRs or just on foot. So we don't just crowdsource space, we also crowdsource agents. On our platform right now, we have 150,000 delivery agents registered, and they are from all sorts of sizes of walkers, truck drivers. We also have bikers, van drivers, and they are from all walks of life. We have housewives, we have students, we have elderlies. And the other day, I was just talking to a 65-year-old uncle who came to our centers for training. And he was just telling me that he's retired, he has no financial pressure, but he's just lonely and looking for something to do. And so I think from a point of view, it's more than job creation. We actually, throughout this whole platform build-out process, we also enhance the overall happiness of our community. And that's also a very important aspect that we look at when we approach sustainability for our business. On the second point of optimization, we are a tech company. We are obsessed with optimizing the utilization of our resources. That's where our tech comes in. We run a proprietary batching algorithm whereby we dispatch bundles jobs to our delivery agents. So that doesn't really only decreases the cost that our merchants pay, but that also increases the earnings for our agents because they can take on more parcels in a given trip in a given time. So in that sense, we're also trying to reduce the resources used performing all these deliveries and make the deliveries greener. And my last point on collaboration, logistics is a very big space. No one can do it all. I think it's particularly relevant in Asia Pacific, where there are so many country borders. If you want to deliver something from one country to another, you probably need to engage multiple service vendors just to get your product across to your consumers. And that gets very difficult and very time-consuming. And without a central kind of process to manage the whole procedures, there's a lot of resource wasted. So how we approach it is that we build an open network to combine all these supply chain resources onto this open network so that our merchants can only with one integration, can access to all these resources and be able to monitor from end to end. And that way, we can also do more smart bundling at the origin of the parcels, and also at the same time reduces, duplicated waybill printing, for example, reduces unnecessary trips. And hopefully, by offering this open network, we are also offering a pathway to the whole entire industry to build a sustainable logistic business.
Thank you, Winnie. Dr. Wen?
Thank you. So our sustainable touch is more of vaccine sustainability and health protection sustainability. For example, current influenza vaccines average effectiveness is about 55% or less. But with our technology using Beth Bio predicted vaccine strain, in the past influenza season, we were able to increase the vaccine effectiveness by 14% using prospective and validated results. So these are provided to WHO already. So in this way, if we revolutionize our thinking of making vaccines, we are projecting ourselves really into the future, into 9 to 12 months later. we predict the virus population at that time, and using this predicted information to design vaccine today that will match with the future. These would save massive resources on the waste of ineffective vaccines, even save lots of failed clinical trials and productions. So this is the first solution we provide in sustainability. The second solution we provide is that we invented the world's first method to predict vaccine effectiveness before vaccination and infection. Traditionally, this information of vaccine effectiveness can only be obtained after the population has been infected, but this was too late. This information is about the past, the few months. It does not predict the future. It does not say something about the future viruses. But this algorithm, this method we just published in Nature Medicine, it enabled the pharmaceutical companies to early know the expected vaccine effectiveness even before manufacturing. So this saves a huge cost for the manufacturers and even for the government to know beforehand what would be the protection level in the population. For an example, as soon as a new genetic variant is discovered in somewhere else in the world, before it enters Hong Kong government, hospital authority can already know the remaining level of vaccine effectiveness in our population by using the current immunization status of our population. So in this way, we provide a forward-looking and a predictive way to prepare for epidemics and the COVID-19 pandemics. So the third solution we provide is, again, sustainable vaccines in developing broadly reactive vaccine antigens. Now, we want a future that we do not need to repeatedly boost our vaccine received. We can have a vaccine that are effective for many types of genetic variants of the SARS-CoV-2 or for the influenza. We don't need to take a shot every few months now and then. So these are the contributions from Beth Bio, both from the health protection side for saving the cost and time, shorten and improving the manufacturing pipeline for the pharmaceutical side.
Thank you. Yeah, as a matter of fact, actually for investor like VC, when we assess ESG, not only the green side, we also assess the social impact, whether you create employment, whether you make sure our countries, our cities are being pandemic ready. So that's very important for us. But our topic is seeking alpha. I believe a lot of investors are very troublesome. They will seek return, they need financial return, they want some extraordinary multiples when they get better money. But does it against your vision and mission? When you come with this kind of conflict, how do you solve it? Maybe we can share some interesting story to our audience. George, you should have a lot.
I like that because no VC like us. We laugh. When I first met the VC, kindly arranged my science park, the first thing I asked them, how soon you want to exit? Rather, they asked me how soon, how fast you can deliver. I asked them the other way around, how soon you want to exit? And 90% of say, within 3 years, 5 years. And I said, let's have a chat. Don't invest on us. I think it's important on the expectation on both sides. As I said, on my journey, we are using the foundation changes to make changes or to provide us solutions. That solutions, as we all here said, something never happened before. When you mention never happened before, all this means that there's no shortcut. You got to do it by yourself. You need patience, but you need work. So this is a very interesting scenario myself I experienced, and how to balance. On one part, we want to convince the VC the path is at least 8 years. A cycle, a new material was born, is 20 years. Who have a budget to spend 20 years to develop something or to realize something that can really have benefit? So anyhow, on my part is that the way to challenge that, I believe in order to let investor convince that I do get my B round funding, and not only I do get my B round funding, they also condition 8 years. And I got it. How do I get it? I don't know. But one thing I do know is that when I get it, I better be good. I better deliver. I better to promise or deliver, not just a claim. So I think this is a very important part to share with fellow investor, new startup, 15-year startup, is that do you really want to just try to raise funding to secure your temporary problem, which obviously we need? But on the other hand, what is your final objective? So I always said, don't be afraid to fail. Just fall. Okay, I fail. I come back again stronger. So I think this is a path not only for any investor or business to learn. Without failing, without finding, you never know what's happening. But having a big budget to spend with no strength, I think this is a curse rather than it's a blessing. So this is how I believe on my part, when my investor come to see my setup, he said, George, how come you have done all this with only $1? If anyone do this, at least 10. I said, simple. Every single penny is being saved. So I think all investor, rather than only looking at the projection, obviously your project going to be good, obviously it's going to deliver whatever. But I believe another very important part is that the commitment to deliver the result, and also open-minded to share with your investor what's going on, and because of that, everyone understand. So this is my answer to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, Winnie?
Yeah, I think George has got it right. Expectation is really the word. I think it's all about open and frequent communications with your investor. As with all good business plan at the beginning, all the mission, vision, and strategies should all be very clear from the very beginning. So during the execution phase of it, I think it's important to stay focused and also at the same time keep an open mind so that you are ready to respond to any external changes in a very quick manner. I think one thing that I pick up we do is over the past years, we have been keeping a very constant dialogue with the investors. Make sure that they know exactly what you are doing to achieve your goal. What we set up there is kind of like a feedback loop, whereby we kind of experiment our thesis in a small scale, and then we show short success, like quick success, and then we go back and do it in a slightly bigger scale, and then we go back and continue to loop in there, and that way our investors are confident that they know exactly when our break-even point is and when is exactly the point where we would bring them substantial returns. And as long as we're on the right path, our investors are happy to support us. That would be my take on that.
Great. Nicely done.
Sure. So I think so we had a bit of a weird experience because we started our company as a university student project, which meant, honestly, for a very long time, people did not think this was legitimate or like this could even be a business, to be honest, right? And I mean, I hate to be blunt, but what changed that is sales, right? So you get orders from large companies, the government, suddenly everyone's like, okay, this actually might work. And so I think in terms of generating investor return, a couple of things we've seen is to generate great return, you need to be basically running a great business, which means you need to be adding a lot of value to your clients, right? And so especially as a sustainable business, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you want to stay sort of impact focused, you also need to then align your impact with your revenue. If your impact and your revenue are not aligned, either you're going to lose your mission or you're not going to generate return, right? Because you're focusing on something else. And so I think for us, we internally have a no impact without profit, no profit without impact. Very simple, right? So simple alignment that helps us stay in the right sort of direction. And that's kind of also helped us, that story also helps us actually sell to our clients, especially with, I think with ESG coming in, even for investors. And actually I spoke to Fred, I think last week, we were doing our investor report, our quarterly report, and he was like, hey, just add in a little on your ESG metrics, because investors also want to know not just your capital return, which is of course the key, but what is also the social return, because that's a storytelling piece, I guess, for them as well, right? So I think, I think aligning your impact and your profit, and then also measuring your metrics on both impact and profit, and pushing for both together, then drives you in the right direction.
Thank you. For us, we are early startup, and interesting story would be 4 years ago when we founded the company with a patent that predicts virus evolution. We had a very hard time to convince people that this is important. That is before COVID-19. And we need to educate many people that the virus is evolving, that the mutations will escape the immunity we generated, etc. And it's difficult to get the investor convinced that this is truly important. But after COVID-19 and after this vaccination we received, it seems that we have been in a very good place. We don't need to, we save the energy to explain all these scientific backgrounds. And now investors are looking at the side of co-development with pharmaceutical companies. So if we demonstrate these solid work together, this solid empowerment with manufacturers, and this is convincing for the investors, and also different from traditional farmers, or not traditional, most of the new technology biotech companies that they usually have a single or two biotechnologies in the pipeline, but with a diversified application. But for ours, we are more general. We provide general technologies that can be applied to multiple vaccine technology platforms. We can work with mRNA, we can work with inactivated, all types of vaccine platforms. So that reduces the risk of failure, of clinical trial failure, because one technology we can work with all types of existing technology platforms. So that's another new aspect for the investors to know that the risk is lower comparing to the other single technology companies, and also different from the traditional drug development companies. So we are still working towards our investment.
Thank you. Those are very great story. Actually, I don't think it's a compromise, but instead a matching process for you to find the right investor who understand your visions. The next question is also about business. As a startup, when we knock the door of a lot of conglomerate, it may be difficult. So first of all, do you think it's in general in Hong Kong or GBA as a whole, or even Asia, those companies are open-minded to work with startup? And secondly, do you have any tips or tactics you can share with the audience that how we should successfully make the business happen? Maybe this one, yeah, George again, first.
Now I know why I sit right next to you, you know. I better. Yeah. A long silence, apologize, because I'm, you know, as I try to squeeze my mind to that, you know. Startup is a very interesting word. At one point, I always said, my books are so wonderful. It's only one way, because only expense. I know I don't have income. I enjoy it, really enjoy it for 10 years, you know. I mean, spending money, don't even worry about how I'm going to do it, you know. But luckily, it's my own money. But anyhow, not using other people's money. But on the other hand, I believe, is just you mentioned on that. Science, technology, engineering, and most important, business-minded have to be all integrated together in order to meet different phases of I believe, you know, of the path, you know. Some part you need your science, the other part you need your engineering. But most of the time you need business. Business is really all we share about here is about communication. You know, how can I communicate in such a way that to realize the science that we're talking about and make it something that is really applicable to the market? And I believe, as you mentioned, how to, I won't say attract or getting investment, is that rather than and focus of what you can do to conquer the world, I like the platform, is that can we start with this as a one income source? But as another 2-3 months come out, I present you another 3 income sources you never expected, but you only pay with one income source. So I believe this is my magic keyway to keep my investor continue to support, because I created new revenue stream for them every 6 months to a year. I think this is one way. Is that means that being an innovator, being and someone to realize a product to fulfill all this, we have to be more, I would say, open-minded. And as I said, the skill set have to be, as I say, more applicable to the wider market, where you always go into the dead-end street, you know. So I think this is how I believe my part, you know. I share with very exciting relationship with our investor, because like we start business with an airline, then we start with a biomedical, with a hospital. Then how, George, you can always start with coffee maker? What? You ought to start another the bandon maker? I mean, you know, one by one, because the technology is always there. It's only how you communicate your technology to different users. And will that use and there's another interesting, if you can prove it to me, always prove it to me, there is one customer which going to pay you to buy your product, right? This is a proof of concept. And I think this is the most important, one of the most important part that we got to think about. Rather than creating 100 things, can you identify the customer or the potential people that who going to interest in you, it's not making money from them, and they're willing to pay the money that you to solve the problems. If you can do it, we are on the right path, isn't that? Thank you.
That's great. And Winnie, I know your company also won a lot of conglomerate contracts. Can you share some tips?
No, well, actually, I like the point George made that, you know, if you have a good product, this is spot for you in Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong has a great startup scene, very diverse ecosystem, a lot of talent, and obviously we've got, you know, an organization like Invest Hong Kong who support us immensely. So thank you. So I think, after all, I think as a startup in Hong Kong, there's a lot of resources, and also the startup community is very tight knit. So my only sharing would probably be leverage on the startup community and the resources that you get there. You never know, like your next key customer could well be from another startup, which is what happened to us. So keep an open mind.
And then you also have some great contract tips to share.
Well, I think in our experience with conglomerates, there's a few things, especially when they work with startups. The first step is, well, basically, you are risky to them, right? So they don't want to take a lot of risk. And I think, like for us, we had to change our business model so that the first step that they buy from us is basically super cheap for them. And so they're able to engage you without basically even getting permission from their boss, right? If there's somebody who you're speaking to, like a champion at that company, it's very easy for them to have you then have that foot in the door. And I think after that, of course, if you have a great product, you will create value. They will see the value. And at that point, I think it's a bit of kind of storytelling and FOMO, right? Which is you then use that story, your successful use case, and then you push within that conglomerate for sort of multiple, for more than whatever you're already doing. But also you can push other conglomerates, because the one thing with them is there's a lot of FOMO, right? So if someone's doing something, everyone else definitely wants to get in on it, and they speak about it at all the conferences, so that obviously helps you. So I think it's really a matter of getting a foot in the door, proving your product works, and then creating a sense of FOMO around your business, and everyone's going to bite in.
That's great. No wonder I saw your boat in some Sino properties. Yeah, Dr. Wen?
Yeah. So for Best Bio, we are in a very unique area of computational biology and bioinformatics. So these are often the complementary area to pharmaceutical companies that are focused on the production line, right, or the virology lab, etc. So our techniques are unique to them. They don't have these complementary skill set. So our counterparties are usually very quickly to collaborate with us, because we see the point of need of each other. Located in Hong Kong, we don't have lots of vaccine manufacturers in Hong Kong, maybe 2 or 3, not many. But our partners can go beyond Hong Kong. We collaborating with farmers in mainland China or even internationally. So we are boundless in terms of the partners, countries, or etc. So I think important thing is to identify the practical need from your counterparties to enter the business. Yeah.
That's great. Well, time is running out. I will change the last question to one sentence. So we all heard of the policy address yesterday. So maybe each of you give one sentence to the government. What kind of thing they can help startup ecosystem, and also build up the entrepreneurship across the region. This time maybe we start from Dr. Wen first.
Thank you. As a professor in the Chinese University of Hong Kong, I always feel lack of research money. As a biotech startup, we are looking for investment, but still, we want the innovation not only focused on the manufacturer side, but on the R&D and the very cutting edge technology side. To help the local startups to brew and pop up. Yeah.
And done your sentence?
Awesome. I think incentives for adoption and incentives for talent. If we have those two things, then startups are able to sell their product and get better people to build it up. So I think that pretty much is it.
Perfect.
Hard to do it in one sentence, but for logistics sector in particular, I think something that we struggle all the time is that after all, the most widely used transfer network in the city is still the public transport system, buses, MTRs. There are different degrees of restrictions in transporting goods using the public transport system. And at the same time, not to think the very high footfall area where they are very expensive to acquire. So I think for us, I'm not sure whether the government would actually consider something like the Green Initiative, like how the Europe does it, provide incentive for people to transport goods using public transportation. And even think about subsidized spaces in the high footfall areas, locations, MTR stations, to just enable this green delivery network. I think that's something that I'd really like to see.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much. I call it a white space. I try to find a white space. White space means that identify the market. What are the market looking for? Who are there? Is my science and uniqueness there? After I find my white space, what I did, rather than prove myself to the industry on dollar and cents, I go back to the government. I always have a claim. If you can sell your products to an NGO, non-profit organization, and they are going to pay you money too, you don't donate them, you better you're doing something right. Means that rather than focus on the monetary return on all this, my final statement is that whatever our invention we should be focused on, we really create a value and benefit for the needs that we see where the white space is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the insightful sharing, and thank you for all our honorable speakers. Thank you, Invest Hong Kong. Thank you, Alibaba Entrepreneurs Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you once again to our panel. Thank you very much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to Fred for moderating the session for us. A lot of good tips and excellent. They are